And good evening, Rando fans. We are back with some more ALTTPR League action here on Speed Gaming. I am your commentator, Cool Papa Bell 2282. Tracking for us tonight is Bandman25. And we are going to see some Week 6 League action. That means we are in Spoiler Pilot Key Sanity mode. So for those of you who have not been watching this week, that means one person will be racing. One of their teammates will have access to the spoiler log and will be feeding information to the runner as the race goes along. The runner is not allowed to look at the spoiler log directly, only what is communicated to them by their teammate. So this will definitely be an interesting race. Combines all the joy of spoiler seeds and just getting to go directly to the items that you need, along with all the franticness of trying to read a spoiler log as the race is going on. So it's a lot of fun for both the runners and the pilots, and is a lot of fun to watch as well. So just to set up this race, this is between Team 63 and a third and the Tile Roomies in the Pyramid of Power division. Reg will be running for Team 63 and a third, piloted by Kuchiri, and jmeasher running for the Tile Roomies, piloted by Hazukitty. And just to give a little context, the Tile Roomies are sitting at 21 points in the division, and they are tied for second place. And they are up half a game right now on the third place team, on the other team sort of tied for second place at 7 wins. The Titans Roomies are officially in second place. Titans Myths are in third place by half a game at this point at 7-4. Tile Roomies sitting at 7-3. So this is a really key game for the Tile Roomies. Team 63 and a third are tied for 6th at the moment, but they are looking to finish out the league strong, maybe play a little bit of spoiler to the Tile Roomies here near the end of the league. So it looks like our runners are getting just about ready to start in IRC, so we will see them take off right away. And in case anyone is curious about the timing, in a typical solo spoiler race, you would have 15 minutes before the race starts to be able to sort of study the log. In a pilot race, the pilot gets the log at the second that it says go in the IRC channel. So you have no lead time whatsoever as the pilot. You just have to dive right in as your partner is racing. So jmeasher starting off in the Sanctuary, finding Bombos. And is heading to the right. Looks like he's probably going to start with a Houlihan play. Can jump into the water over here, get a bunch of rupees right off the bat, and then figure out where to go from there. Yeah, seems like we are having some issues with Reg's stream, unfortunately. So jmeasher just going to set up this Houlihan glitch, jump in the water a few times, dive in this hole, and then the game doesn't know where to put you, therefore the Houlihan room. So Reg was having some streaming issues during the setup time, so we might be rolling with just jmeasher stream for the moment until we can get that worked out. And so yes, the benefits of the Houlihan play are you can buy bombs early, you've got money for going into pod later and doing things like chest game or digging game, and it really just gives your pilot a minute or so to look at the seed and figure out where to send you next. jmeasher is headed straight into the front of Hyrule Castle without any bombs or weapon of any sort. So let's hope that there is a weapon of some kind in the first chest here in Hyrule Castle, since that's the only one we will be able to get to at this point. Or, okay, we're just going to grab the Moon Pearl and then duck back out. So yeah, the early parts of a pilot seed, you are just looking for those initial items that you need to sort of make your runner's life easier. You're looking for a sword, you're looking for where you're going to find that Dark World access, you might want to find some bombs early on, and of course you're always looking for whatever safeties your runner is going to need. You need hearts, maybe armor, bottles, powder, things like that. Of course, the seed doesn't always make those easy to find, so sometimes your runner will just have to do without them. Looks like we're going to see the Lost Woods check as well. Nice bomb tree pole there, never hurts, so that's all we went into the Lost Woods for, I guess, was just those bombs. But that's a good find to find that tree pole in the spoiler log. All of that info is there. All sorts of things like the stun prize and the tree poles, those sorts of things are all given to the pilot in the log. It's just a question of, can you find it quickly enough for your runner to be able to use that information? Looks like we are skipping out on Blind's Hut. Some more bombs there in the well. There's our first sword. Definitely make things more convenient for the runner. And now going back into the Blind's hideout, probably just wanted to make sure of having bombs on the way there. Finding the pod big key and a bottle so far. And a second bottle. So Sick Kid, very available, but clearly a necessary trip for that pod big key, perhaps. So our tracker also has access to the spoiler log, and so Bandman has put up our pendants and crystals so that we can see those on the restream, since our runners will definitely not be able to or not be taking the time to do a map check, since they already have all of that information in the spoiler logs. Ooh, and boots right away, another good find. So pretty generous seed early on, giving us a weapon and boots, so we can start going fast right away. And gloves as well, so a fairly loaded Kakariko village. We almost have our Dark World access. And a little discussion there going on between jmeasher and Hazukitty about whether to go down to the library and the maze race. And it would seem the answer is yes. And a pod small key. So it's seeming like there is definitely some stuff to be found in Palace of Darkness, since we've gone a little bit out of our way for 2 keys, even though that is a green pendant. And yes, the runners do not have to follow what their pilot is doing, but since the pilot is staring directly at the log and can tell them, you know, oh, the maze race is just 20 rupees, don't bother with that, it's usually a pretty good idea to listen. All right, so Back of Escape coming up also. And there's our second glove. So Moon Pearl in the front of Escape, our mitts in the back, and that now gives us access to the Dark World. So sub 7 minute Dark World is always fun. And we will see if jmeasher heads in there right away. We have not seen anything yet in the South Shore area. So it seems like there's not too much exciting down there from the looks of things, or they're going to try and route that in at a later point in the seed. But Mishra is headed right into the Dark World. Let's see, keys-wise, there's not a whole lot we can do in dungeons. Can't finish Skull Woods just yet without the Fire Rod. And it looks like we're going to head south into Village of Outcasts and try and find some interesting stuff either in Thieves Town, in the front of Thieves Town, and the rest of Village of Outcasts. Okay, I think the hammer in the brewery counts as interesting things in the village. And a second sword and an immediate death warp out of Thieves Town. And so it looks like we're going to see a little bit of this Dark World loop. No Stumpy, though. We're just headed straight to Hype Cave from the looks of things. So our co-pilots today are Kuchiri is co-piloting Reg, and Hazukitty is co-piloting James. All right, so that makes a lot of sense. Our runners have dipped, jmeasher at least has dipped into Dark World to get the hammer and hook shot. That makes me think we are headed straight up Death Mountain. Not in logic, of course, at this point without the lamp, but I don't think that's going to bother our runners too much. We are seeing, though, one of the dangers of any sort of spoiler seed is that you are not sure when you're going to be able to pick up that health. Normally, you just find some heart pieces here and there along the way, but in a pilot seed, you're pretty much never going to go out of your way for anything less than a full heart container. And so very often you'll wind up in situations like jmeasher is, where you're just running around the Dark World on 3 hearts and green mail, and there's just not much of an option to do otherwise in this seed. Half Magic is nice that is just right along our runner's path. And yep, we're going to put that hook shot to use right away, heading over to Paradox Cave. So very often in a pilot seed, you might just look for locations that you want to get to early. So, you look at Death Mountain and see, there's a bunch of good stuff up here. How do we get to Death Mountain? You find that hookshot and hammer, and that sort of becomes your first goal. So, you get Dark World access, get access to the place with lots of items, and then go there, and then you start clearing dungeons. And then you've pretty much routed your spoiler seed. So there's our Thieves Town big key. So no way we were going to finish that before our first trip through that Village of Outcasts portal. And a second big key in Paradox Cave, the Misery Mire big key. And the bow as well. So Palace of Darkness is pretty open to us, except for maybe a couple more small keys would come in handy. Definitely we can do most of Thieves Town, everything except the big chest. but that might or might not be required today. And looks like jmeasher is going to go ahead up to the Tower of Hera and clear that out, since that is a crystal. Now, again, we have no Tower of Hera big key, but I am guessing that we're about to see the Hera pot glitch from jmeasher that will get us around that particular requirement to get upstairs to Moldorm. Oh, that was a very clean super speed setup for that Hera pot from jmeasher. You just use your super speed to clip into that pot just a little bit. The other setups for that involve some sort of bomb knockback, but that was incredibly fast from measher. So we'll just knock out this crystal very quickly. The hookshot is really the only hard requirement for Hera pot, but boots certainly make it easier if you can do that. So crystal number 1 at 13 minutes for jmeasher. And we are not grabbing anything else out of Hera, so it just seems like our runners were in the area and decided it was time to defeat this dungeon. Certainly is always helpful for the pilot to just have a minute to say, okay, go beat Hera while I read the spoiler log. So that might be that situation, or just generally trying to spend as little time backtracking as possible and just clearing out everything in this part of the world while you can. And we're going to see a little bit of the Dark Death Mountain as well. Hookshot is just such a key item because it unlocks so much and makes so much of Death Mountain faster. And there are so many items up here on Death Mountain. You always love getting access to it in a regular seed, but especially in a spoiler seed, you just figured that there's going to be some good stuff up here. So you definitely want to get here as soon as possible. And there is the flute, located ever so conveniently in Hookshot Cave. And since we have not found the lamp yet, that seems like that lamp is going to be pretty late in the logic of this seed, and would be our logical access to Death Mountain, since the only other way to get up there logically is with the flute. But judging by the fact that we really did not find much else on the mountain, it feels like that lamp is actually super late in this particular seed's logic. And our runners decided they wanted the flute a little bit earlier than the seed wanted to give it to them, so just a minor sequence break, and jmeasher will activate that flute immediately. All right, so now some South Shore checks coming through from jmeasher, taking advantage of that flute and just putting off these checks until it was a very fast trip to get here. That's very, what I want to say, forward thinking on the routing, because it's so easy to just say, oh, there's something good at the dam, just go grab that right now. But putting it off for just a little bit until it got a little bit faster is a very smart little time save from the tile roomies. And things are a little bit behind on Reg's side, but seems like they are starting with a very similar sort of plan, starting with those first gloves in Kakariko Village, and then heading straight toward the second gloves in the back of Escape. Desert Palace Big Key, that's going to be another important one to let us finish one of our crystals. And it's a little bit crazy to think about this, but 20 minutes in, we can start trying to figure out just how close we are to go mode. Misha needs the cane, the fire rod. We do not, as nearly as we can tell, really need flippers. Because we can just fake flipper our way into Ice Palace necessarily. We're going to need a medallion to get into Misery Mire at some point. And yep, here's some of that fake flippering right now. And we are just headed straight into Ice Palace. So if you want to see some low percent execution, here comes a 4-heart blue male Ice Palace, everyone's favorite. So, since jmeasher does not have the Cane of Samaria right now, we will not be seeing the Icebreaker. So question in chat, yes, the spoiler log tells you where everything is, but that does not necessarily mean that it is accessible right now. So there could be something ridiculous going on, like the Ganon's Tower big key, say, is maybe in the Thieves' Town big chest, so you need to have the small key before you go there. But that small key is in Mire, but Misery Mire is locked by some medallion that's at the bottom of ice. So then all of a sudden, you have to put off Thieves' Town until like 20 minutes later, just to get that chain of ridiculous items taken care of first. So we will see how this all plays out. We got to trust the pilots to know where everything is, and we'll see why that Thieves' Town is being put off by our runners. It also might just be a pathing thing, because if you go into the Dark World right now when you don't have Mirror, that means you're going to have to save and quit to leave the Dark World to get to flute down to Ice Palace, for example. So there might just be little things like that they're going to wait on and do Thieves' Town at just a time when it's a little bit more convenient. So jmeasher gets that Ice Palace bomb jump. And Hookshot making quick work of those pen gators. No small key for jmeasher, so I don't know if we're doing right side at all. Yep, looks like we're going to hookshot through to the right side. Yes, the spoiler log has all of the information you could conceivably want about the seed. It's just a question of finding it quickly and communicating it to your runner effectively. Those are the major challenges of this pilot mode. Interesting. So jmeasher just coming to the right side for the small key. So sort of stealing the small key from the right. Looks like we're going to backdoor the iced tea room. And hey, there's that mirror we were just talking about. Yeah, seems like Reg grabbed the Moon Pearl out of the first chest in Hyrule Castle and then took a Death Warp and is now going to sequence break Dark Cross. Becomes a lot easier with that sword, so... Oh, a death in Dark Cross trying to sequence break it. All right, so jmeasher, yeah, dropping into this 4-heart cold stare. Does have Master Sword at the very least, so it is not hammer only. So jmeasher using those spins. Oh, looked like he was going to get a double there on that puff on the left side. And finishing it up as well. So it looks like, feels like similar routes taken between our two runners. So 2 crystals down, 20 minutes in, and that trip into Ice Palace was mostly for the mirror at this particular point. So that might be our access to Desert Palace, quite possibly, or I was going to say we might need to take a dip into Swamp, but that's not so possible without the flippers, if I understand this game correctly. And yes, questions in the chat. This week in particular, watching your opponent stream, watching the restream is all completely allowed by the rules. In spoiler log races, that's perfectly fine, since probably you're not going to get any information that you couldn't get more easily just by having your pilot look at the log anyway. So. All right, so jmeasher ducked in to grab Tempered Sword out of Sahasrala's hut, and now is headed to the Mire area. And yep, looks like we're going to make use of that mirror right away and head into Desert Palace, where we do have that big key. No fire source as of yet. Ooh, Cane of Samaria off the desert ledge. So we cannot actually beat Desert Palace at this point without some source of fire. And it looks like we were just grabbing the cane off of the desert ledge. And now jmeasher is headed back to Hyrule Castle, probably heading for the item in Dark Cross that Reg was trying to grab before. And so it looks like Reg made a similar duck into Thieves Town. That was our second sword that we found in there, if I remember correctly, but nothing else. And that was the hammer Reg grabbing out of the brewery, so looking like a very similar route to get that Death Mountain access very early on from the Team 63 1/3 side. And there was Ether. So that's where we found Ether, was in that Dark Cross chest. And now we are headed straight back to the Mire area. So minor slowdown from the tile roomies there, probably intended to pick up that ether before heading to the Mire area, if that is our medallion, which it is. I see our tracker already has those. So those sorts of things are going to happen all the time in a spoiler log race. It's very frantic, and that really didn't cost the Tau Roomies too much, just the extra time to flute back. So not too concerning there, as jmeasher will dive right into Meyer. I personally would be more concerned about Bean and Meyer on 4 hearts, but so let's see, going in, Measher has the Meyer big key and 1 small key. That will be plenty to clear out everything in the dungeon. There are enough small keys under the pots to do that. We are headed out to the bridge chest. Ooh, finding Cape, that's definitely very nice. With Cape, half magic, and boots, all of a sudden that low health Vidi fight becomes a whole lot easier. Can just turn on the Cape and dash back and forth between the eyes. Oh, Reg headed up to Stumpy, grabbing some arrows just to stock up there from the looks of things. Yeah, I did not see what was in Dig Game, but yeah, I believe jmeasher walked right past both of those. So that might be some extra safeties or convenient items. Heart container, our tracker telling us there. So yeah, that's definitely one of those convenience items that is sort of optional, depending on how your runner feels. And there is our GT big key on the right side of Meyer. And yep, we are about to see a Dark Meyer basement from jmeasher. I would suspect we'll see some strong use of that cape to make life a little bit easier in the dark. Let's see, I know our runners picked up a potion early. I forget what color it was, though. Oh, yep, and that is such a hard room in the dark. jmeasher taking that death there in the dark basement of Meyer. You've got 3 things shooting at you, and yeah, it's just brutal. You have to line up your spot to throw the Cane of Samaria block just right, and jmeasher took that death there. So yes, they are opting to come back a little bit later with maybe more health or more safeties or maybe a lamp. And Kuchiri, one of our pilots, just actively taunting his opponents in chat. Gotta respect that. Talking about an item to get in Meyer, which might be that spike chest, which is a little bit difficult to get to on the health that jmeasher had while he was in there. So we will see if those extra hearts that Reg stopped to pick up along the way come in handy. Meanwhile, jmeasher is going to make a pod dip. This is our green pendant. So clearly there is some ulterior motive for doing this dip right now. And headed straight through to the right side, since jmeasher went a little bit out of the way to pick up the pod big key, we might need something off of Sahasrara with that green pendant. Okay, not even grabbing any items from the right-hand side, just using it to get into the back of Pod. Oh, we're going to see another new little trick here. Oh my gosh, I forget what that one is called. But as you see, you have a Samaria block on screen, and weird things happen. You start your dash down near that pit, and then you can just go straight up through the blocks there. 100% legal trick. The Racing Council approved it for use in rando races a couple weeks back. Cane of Samaria is a very broken item, is the TLDR of that trick, if you were unaware. So, looks like jmeasher just one of those flippers out of Palace of Darkness, which maybe means we have to go into Swamp. Let's see, no Swamp keys at the moment. So our runners can only access the very first chest of Swamp right now, but it looks like jmeasher is thinking about that. Yes, so that is a relatively new trick. I had not heard of it at all until about 2 or 3 weeks ago when the Racing Council ruled on it. So, yeah, that one's a little bit newer. Pretty easy to pull off, though. It's really just you kind of run down toward that. You drop a Samaria block, run down toward that pit, and press the dash button right before you fall into the pit, and then do a dash turn up, and you will just dash straight through those blocks. So yes, jmeasher is headed right into Swamp Palace. Pretty much the main reason why you would need flippers with the equipment that he has at this point. And there is the lamp. So seems like the runners are, or rather, jmeasher is opting out of that Dark Mire basement altogether, and they just decided to go ahead and take that detour through Palace of Darkness, find the flippers, get the lamp, and then head back into Misery Mire. Question in chat about the ceremonial robes of the Racing Council. I believe that if I told you about those, I would have to kill you. So, sorry. Actually, I have no idea. I think they just get on Discord and talk. I don't think it's that complicated. But, you know, if they want to wear robes, that's up to them. All right, so yes, we have some more options available in Mire now. The fire-locked side is available since, you know, we have a fire source. And that is right where jmeasher is going. Oh, that's always frustrating. Forgot to hit the switch on the second time into Mire here, so probably we'll have to relight those torches. Nope, gets through. So Lamp was in the first chest of Swamp, which required dipping into Pod to get the flippers, and our Fire Rod was locked behind that lamp. Okay, so the logic in this seed was dip Pod without any sort of light source in order to get your flippers, in order to dip Swamp Palace without the Swamp Palace small key, to get the lamp to be able to get to the Fire Rod on the left side of Mire. That's truly awful. So that room gets a lot easier when you can see what you're doing, so jmeasher should have no trouble here. Very nice little cane strat to hit that switch in the top part of that room. Thank you, Kuchiri. I'm impressed that you can pilot a race and find time to talk in chat at the same time. We appreciate it. Yes, I'm actually not looking at the spoiler log. I'm just trying to keep up with the race, but I know our tracker has it open. So if you have any burning questions, you can ask Bandman, although he might want to keep some secrets. It's more fun that way. And so, yeah, we see that Cape, a few quick tempered sword spins, gets through those eyeballs very quickly, and then 8 arrows will take down Vitreous. And finally, another heart container for jmeasher, up to 5 now, basically playing on easy mode. And with that fire rod, it looks like jmeasher is pretty much in key mode. There's really nothing else he is going to need to beat this game except some keys. We have the GT big key. We have the Thieves Town big key. Pretty much just the Eastern big key at this point that we are looking for. Since Skullwoods, you don't really need any small keys except the ones you can find in the dungeon. Actually, the same with Ganon's Tower. If worst comes to worst, you can just steal that key from the left side and grab one off the mini Helmasaur. So you don't really need any small keys, but that Eastern Palace big key will definitely be required. So it feels like in this seed, sniffing out that lamp requirement for the fire rod was the biggest hurdle for our pilots to overcome. And sounds like Kuchiri, at least, is pretty confident in the way that he approached that particular challenge. So we will see overall how this race shakes out. And meanwhile, jmeasher did not even go into the front of Desert Palace, is just headed straight to the back. And very quick fight from jmeasher, of course, when you can spam out those fire rod shots. So 4 crystals for jmeasher. Eastern Palace is going to be a relatively quick one. And we are headed back up Death Mountain. Does that mean we're going to have to take a trip into Turtle Rock to get that Eastern Big Key? Let's see. Oh no, game. Oh my goodness. I was afraid that's what was happening. We're doing Spike Cave. So that cape coming in real handy at this point. And there it is. There's our Eastern Palace Big Key. I think that is officially go mode for jmeasher, which might explain why Hazukitty, jmeasher's pilot, has just shown up in chat, because once your runner hits go mode, the pilot just kind of leans back and, you know, takes a nap pretty much. And at this point, it is basically an execution race for our runners. jmeasher has Thieves Town and Eastern Palace to finish, as well as Skullwoods. So Skullwoods and Thieves Town will happen right now. A quick flute over to Eastern, and then back up the mountain. Alright, so jmeasher making quick work of Thieves Town here. Yes, I believe both of our runners are in go mode now, if Kuchiri is to be believed, and I have no reason to think he wouldn't be. Just some sort of technical issues on Reg's side, making things look weird, but sounds like we have a fairly close race so far. We'll see how quickly rather, jmeasher manages to get through his remaining dungeons. So yeah, I'm trying to think through what sort of routing decisions were forced on our runners at this point. That early Ice Palace for Cape. Where was Cape? Oh, I forget where Cape was. That early Ice Palace for Mirror was certainly required to get that lamp, to get the fire rod, etc. Yeah, the trip to Thieves Town maybe could have happened sooner, but we didn't really have the Thieves Town big key, and then didn't have a real particular reason to come back here until later in the siege. So I think our runners were just more concerned with chasing down that fire rod chain immediately. Okay, yes. Our tracker reminded me that Cape was in Misery Mire, so yes, that planned Ice to Mire trip to get the Cape, to get to Spike Cave, to get the Eastern Palace big key. Those are just the ludicrous things that you have to do in Key Sanity, and they get highlighted in these spoiler seeds when you're not doing anything else. All right, and so another spoiler in chat from Kuchiri. Silvers are at Mimic Cave today. I feel pretty safe in saying that's not going to happen. So we're going to see a tempered silverless fight from both of our runners. And Eastern finishing up for Reg at approximately the same time as jmeasher finishes Thieves Town. So just the run up to Skull for jmeasher in this part of the world. And then I would suspect that Reg just decided to go to Eastern first and then do Thieves Town and Skull. At this point, these three dungeons are pretty much a toss-up what order you do them in, since you're just going to go mode them all. And right there is why you don't need to pick up any Skullwoods keys if you're just going to beat the boss. Okay, so Reg picked up a small key while in Ice Palace. That was right on the way for jmeasher, and that will save a little bit of time in GT, because I think jmeasher is probably going to have to go downstairs and grab a key off of the left side, unless there's another small key for Ganon's Tower along the path somewhere. jmeasher does have blue mail that was in the Sunken Treasure, I believe. This tempered fight should be pretty quick if Mothula gets away from that top wall of spikes. There we go. jmeasher finishes that off nicely for crystal number 6. So this seed has been pretty nice to our runners as far as the dungeons go. A whole lot of go-moded dungeons and some short ones. We're going to totally avoid Turtle Rock today. And Ice Palace, we got to go mode, although without the Cane of Samaria, unfortunately. Minor brain fart from jmeasher there, heading into the Dark World on his way to Eastern Palace. And I will say it is a little bit hard to tell the difference between the exact difference between the runners, because the restream delay is a little bit unpredictable from time to time. So. Yes, Reg does have a local recording going, so if there is any question about the outcome of this race, we can always go back and check the locally recorded videos later to get official times, and the admins will take care of that. Oh, I guess Relkin, who is asking that in chat, is probably one of those admins. And once again, some very fast go-moded dungeons from jmeasher. Always fun to watch. Really top-level runners of this game blaze through a dungeon like this. Just missing the quick kill on that last Armos Knight. But collecting the 7th crystal, pulling out the flute, and ready to flute up to the mountain at about 51 minutes or so, just a few seconds before that. So jmeasher touching down on the mountain at just about 50 minutes and 46 seconds on the way to Ganon's Tower. And we'll only need to pick up a small key from inside the tower on the way there. I believe we saw over on Reg's side also that he opened up the Turtle Rock Dark World portal first trip up Death Mountain, which jmeasher did not. So just a couple seconds longer on that last trip up the mountain then. And jmeasher is heading to that left side to grab that key. Oh, we got another key on the torch. Who knows what that one is? And jmeasher is preparing to climb the GT gauntlet on 5 hearts, being a lot more careful in this first room than you would normally be, naturally. Collecting some extra arrows from under that pot. That's another thing you pretty much only need to worry about in spoiler seeds. Most of the time you just find 10 arrows in chests all over the place, and you always have enough arrows, but generally your co-pilot will not tell you to collect arrows, so kind of have to find them where you can get them. And no stopping for jmeasher. Has decided to ride with the safeties that he has got right now, which I believe is a blue potion. This is really interesting to watch. jmeasher is definitely just going all out. I mean, not stopping to pick up any hearts. Has a bee in a bottle that he did not stop to turn into another potion. And jmeasher, through the hardest part of this climb, through that gauntlet, takes out Landmo 2 without too much trouble. And judging by Kuchiri's comment in chat, Reg has entered Ganon's tower just a few seconds ago, right as jmeasher was going through that second Wizrobe room. And there's that second small key you need for Ganon's tower. And jmeasher is just headed toward this Moldorm 2 fight. And easy Moldorm 2 fight with the dash and the spin. Not checking the final chest. And headed toward Aga 2. jmeasher is locked in at this point. This happens a lot with runners, you know, during the first part of the race, they're either thinking about routing or, in this case, talking to their pilot, and then they hit go mode, and you just kick into another gear. Very clean Ganon's tower climb from jmeasher. Gets a double in that first cycle of Aga 2. That might have been a triple that time. I'm not sure if both of the second two registered. Yes, they did. 2-3-1. Clean Aga 2 fight to finish off that climb as well. Headed into Ganon with full health. All 5 hearts. Easy game. All right, jmeasher dropping into the Ganon fight. Gets that trident spin, so is set up for the 1-1. Yep, gets the 1 cycle for the first part, switching to the cape for some safety in Phase 2. Just wants to be sure to get through Phase 2 of the Ganon fight as quickly as possible. And on to Phase 3. Ganon being a little uncooperative with the warps. Does not want to be embarrassed into losing this game in under an hour, so trying to push jmeasher just over that 1 hour finishing time from the looks of things. And assures himself the torch glitch, and is now just 12 spins away from finishing off this seed. Switching to the fire rod, try and get some triple cycles in. Finishes with an official SRL time of 59 minutes and 52 seconds. Really just top-notch execution from jmeasher. No wasted time grabbing safeties because he did not need them. Just, wow, tremendous execution. I don't know what else to say. GG's to jmeasher and co-pilot Hazukitty. We will see if we can get them in chat and answer some questions, talk about that clinic that they just put on. And as trolly as that lamp location was, to be able to still finish in under an hour, really tremendous race. All right, we have jmeasher in the waiting room. We'll see if we can invite into Hazukitty as well, so we can talk to both members of the Tile Roomies team. And according to the IRC chat, Reg was finishing up Moldorm 2 when the .done came through. And hopefully we'll be able to hear from everyone involved with the race. And this is a good time to remind you all to be sure to give these runners a follow. Obviously, you saw some great gameplay today, and Reg and Kuchiri putting themselves out there as well. Obviously, with the stream issues, we couldn't see quite as much of Reg's gameplay, but this was a really tight race, even if we had to get a little bit of play-by-play remotely about Reg's progress through the seed, but really strong performance from both of these runners. They've been doing it the whole league long. So be sure to follow Reg and jmeasher and their co-pilots as well, Hazukitty and Kuchiri, for some more great link to the past content. And we are now joined in chat by jmeasher and Hazukitty, our winners of this race. GG's, you two.
Thanks, GG.
So, you want to talk us through that seed? How'd you feel about that run overall?
I told him to go to... You go first.
No, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I told him to go get tempered before we went into Ice Palace, but he kept saying it was okay.
I have a bad habit of being a little bit stubborn on those sorts. So once I was in Ice Palace, you remind me, I was like, I really should have, because it would have made the fight a lot quicker. But once I was in there, I felt like I just needed to just do the dungeon, which is why I immediately went there afterwards. But no, the seed was actually really, really kind. And we've done a fair amount of these practice seeds, and we've had some that were truly
like that one we just bailed on yesterday.
Yeah, the one we actually quit one yesterday. It was just
because
terrible.
We made a mistake in the beginning, but even without that, we weren't going to learn anything from it.
Yeah, with this one, the worst you had to do was make quick dips into pod and swamp. So it made for a really fast seed. It also made for a really low percentage seed. Luckily, the swords were in kind places, but super low hearts.
Sorry, I didn't make sure you had ether.
We had a couple of those moments. The worst of which was, the worst of which was going into Mire without lamp and only realizing afterwards that we needed it to get the fire rod.
I didn't know what the compass chest was.
Yeah, those spoiler logs are not the easiest to read always, just because, they have their own names for things, which are not what we call them, so can definitely cause some problems there. Sorry, go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry that my ISP decided it didn't want to upload today for no apparent reason.
Fine.
Yeah, that sucks. GG, Reg.
Yeah, I played bad. I deserved it. I didn't grab my tempered sword when I went to pod. I didn't grab the Bari key in Mire, which cost me 40 seconds having to backtrack around. Yeah, and then what?
What key in Mire?
The one that the Bari drops in the switch room.
What are Baris?
Yeah,
the jellyfish things.
The floating jellies. Yeah, I don't know if Mire's small. I think it was a mini mold.
I opened half of Mini Moldorm Cave and just got the important stuff. I wasn't told there was a Mire small there, but again, Key Sanity 101, Mire, you need no small keys. And it would have been perfectly fine if I just grabbed that drop. But GG, sounds like the better player won today.
I mean, these modes are really tough because, like I was just saying, you end up in low percentage, and
Kuchiri was telling me that. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say it comes down to how comfortable you are with some of those low health boss fights.
Yeah.
And what you can choose to skip.
Kuchiri was telling me that the only hearts you got were the boss drops, which well done.
Few piece of hearts. I think I had one piece of heart upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
And
Well-
I definitely, after a certain point, especially once we made the fire rod mistake, I kind of felt the need to pick up the pace and take a little bit, take some.
Yeah, like pretty much all the safety I got was before Ice Palace, just because Cold Stare and Vitreous are my two worst low percent bosses.
I was watching
They're
the
tough.
chat in the restream, and I was worried. And I thought we were behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were getting some live updates from Kuchiri during the race there about the time of the Meyer dips. Was when we started getting some updates, so we could sort of keep the hype rolling, even with the stream issues there. But yeah, it sounds like it was a really close race all the way through to the end for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the kinds of mistakes we're talking about here tend to happen in these because everything's happening so quickly. Like, you're just like, well, I know I need to go get that item. I need to go get that item. You really have to keep in mind all the requirements because it's something that is just kind of like you tend to sleep on in normal randomizer. Whereas here, everything's so sped up that, stuff gets missed.
Yeah.
It's
And
unfortunate what happens.
right.
I'm sorry, I didn't make sure you went to get Ether. That's my.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's also me spacing, so we both on us both.
Yeah, we were talking about that one. I mean, it's one extra flute, so not a huge concern there, but
Yeah, but the thing is, we were talking about as I was laying out what my plan was I was going to go to Dam and Mini Moldorm and then go for Dark Cross and get that ether, and then just get ahead of myself and
then you never did.
flute away to somewhere else.
Yeah, that's another thing that I did. I tried to do Dark Cross on at the very start just to give Kuchiri time to piece together the route after that because we knew it would be Meyer early. Then I died and I had to go back later.
Yeah,
Oh, well.
that makes sense. I felt like given that it was ether and that was only our Meyer entry that we could probably put it off for a little while. Plus, right at the very beginning, I wasn't sure maybe there was something that was going to be required in the Agate Tower or in Escape as well. So
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Castle Tower just had a heart piece, right? Heart container.
It was junk enough that I
Oh,
don't think
Turtle
anybody would
Rock.
ever consider it.
yeah, no,
Turtle Rock
definitely
piece.
not.
We didn't have to go. We didn't go into Turtle Rock.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely convenient from the seed that some long dungeons were either not required or go moded this time around, so made for a really quick race even by spoiler standards.
Yeah, I think this is this ended up being our sub-hour seed we've done. We've come close before, but
Yeah, this was, even with me taking a bit longer, this was the fastest I did because my practice seeds had silly things like triple dip pod or go Meyer Turtle Rock, back to Meyer, back to Turtle Rock.
Yeah, I rolled multiple practice seeds where you had to get a big key out of GT and then go get your GT big key out of Swamp or Skull Woods. So,
Sounds like key sanity, man.
Mhm.
Oh,
yep, just key sanity things.
we should give that seed from yesterday to everyone.
I think I already-
want to know.
I think I already deleted it from my computer, but regardless, it was that bad.
You don't have to perma. I think
No,
Strashlabot.
yeah, I'm sure I've got the. Yeah, I'm sure I've got the permalink somewhere, but it was. Let's suffice to say, it was awful.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I should say officially also that Reg finished with a time of 1 hour and 4 minutes 15 seconds. That's definitely a hard loss to run a seed in 1 hour and 4 minutes and coming second in the race, but GG's nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, any final thoughts from anybody about this seed today?
No, I
Nice to
mean,
us.
yeah, it was very kind, and this is a really cool format. So I'm glad we've got this and the co-op stuff going on for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Playing up the team
Running next
aspect.
week.
I like
I'm
that.
the worst runner in the. I have the worst execution, but I'm the best at reading the log.
Hmm.
So
I'd
this
like
is
to try
what
being on
I-
the other end of this once, but oh well.
Season 3.
Yep. Guess the last words I've got. I'm bad. I'll be better next time. Oh well. It happens.
Good job.
GG's again, man. And yeah, thank you guys for the restream and comms and tracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, sorry about my video feed. I have no idea what's up with it. It's just my ISP decided it
Weird,
didn't want to upload.
because I have 0.66 megabits per second upload. I have worse upload than you, and I can still stream. It's fine most times.
Well, the other thing is looking at my thing on OBS, it's super variable. Like it fluctuates, it peaks at like 2,000 kilobytes a sec, and it bottoms out like sub 400, and it just fluctuates entirely between the two.
Did you try dropping it to 600?
Yeah, I didn't try much besides just dropping it to 360p 30 FPS because I was panicking trying not to hold up the race.
600 to 700 is the most it ever goes up for me.
I could,
Sometimes.
yeah, I'll play with that later, but thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later. I'm going to be out.
Yep. Good night.
Alright, bye.
Bye.
So yeah, I think that will just about wrap it up for us. GG's again to jmeasher and Hazukitty. Well done getting through that tricky little seed. And thank you all for watching here on Speed Gaming. If you all want to see a little bit more of this spoiler pilot format, we are going to be back here on the main Speed Gaming channel in about 40 minutes. Where Adirondack Rick for Team We're Bad at Team Names is going to take on Verts of Team Grouchy Old Men in some more Week 6 League action, and then a couple other races later tonight. Speed Gaming 4 at 10 p.m., Speed Gaming 5 at 11, and the ALTTPR League also at 11 p.m. So all sorts of options available to watch some more league action. And I think that will just about wrap us up. Thanks again to our runners, to our tracker for today, Bandman25. Be sure to give all of our runners and everyone a follow to show your appreciation for them. And I've been Cool Papa Bell 2282. We will see you next time.